What I would like to do first tonight is I want to go through a segment of 2 of a book called Here Comes the Shadows of the Sun, written by our very own Dr. King Peter. He wrote a part 1 and a part 2. It starts off in segments, and again, I am Prophet Peter. I came from under the leadership of Prophet Cicero, Melchizedek, and decided to write a book. My title is Here Comes the Shadow of the Sun. He goes on in his book to say, I am Peter. I come as the 3 Hebrew boys and Moses did with the same Jesus. I am that I am. We are based up on these 3 chapters. The 3rd chapter of Daniel, the 3rd chapter of Exodus, and I come to you from the 10th chapter of Matthew. And so when he say we are based on these 3 chapters, we're talking about the 3 Hebrew boys, Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego, those that would not bow. And he's talking about how no matter what, we should not let go of our faith. We should not bow to anything. And knowing that, as the Hebrew boys said, if he doesn't deliver, if his God don't deliver us, we have to have enough faith to know that he's able. And Moses, who was sent by God, not just sent, but sent when he said, what shall be my name? My name is I am that I am, and that shall be my name from generation to generations. There are many gods. There are many gods, but he said, don't forget the God that brought you up and brought you out. Even in this faith, that is the name we go by. I am that I am. He says we are also based on the 10th chapter of Matthew, where we were sent. His disciples were sent. We as Coptics are sent to go to and fro, up and down in the earth, to teach, heal, and prophesy, to go and tell a people that we have teachers, we have leaders, we have prophets, we have queens that are healing, that are teaching, that are resurrecting a consciousness. He said, thou art Peter, and upon this rock I will build. And that's what I've been asking all month is, what are we building? What are we looking to build? What are we trying to raise up to? What are we planning? What are our goals? He says in the book, keep love in the organization because Jesus is not dead. Honor your mother and your father. Honor your leader. He said, I come not to tear you down, but to make you free. He says, explaining is understanding. Somehow we as people, we don't like to explain things that we do. We want to do it because we're the parents. Do it because I said so. Do it because I'm the teacher, I'm the leader. But Prophet Peter's words is explaining is understanding. He also says in part 2 of his book, he says we are dry because we are dry because we don't know which way to go and what to believe and build our hopes and dreams on. I continue to say, what is our purpose? What are we looking for? And what I love about this, the prophet says, the only thing we know is material things for ourselves. When you ask people their purpose, their dreams, their different things, it's materials, cars, houses. It's beyond that. That's not going to make us the person that God wants us to be. learn and live with each other and share our beliefs and wisdoms with each other, like we do on this conference call, iron sharpen iron. Help one another. Remember to mute your phone. I hear somebody's feedback. Please mute your phone. The prophet said to build our minds, build dreams on something that will be from generation to generation. Prophet Melchizedek left us a perfect foundation. Prophet Peter, Queen Capadon, Mother Rebecca, Queen Priscilla, and all of them left us something that still 30-something years, we are still talking about their name and what they've done and how they have healed. But today, what are we leaving for generation to generation? The book says to build a new foundation for the black man. Can we honestly say we are free? Psychologically, we are still suppressed, depressed, oppressed. We still bound, but not by nobody. We are bound because of the way we think. And yet, the prophets that came before us came to set the captives free, to deliver us, to free us. But yet, just like in the days of Moses in Exodus, so many of us still want to go back. Just like in the day of Nebuchadnezzar, many people did bow. Even the ones that came with Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego, some did bow. It's so easy for us to sell out for nothing because we're not standing for anything. We as a people have to learn that this way, this order, this setup as they call it, is a faith way. And we have to walk by faith. But it also says obedience is the great head of the church. And I'm not talking about obedience in bowing down to another person per se, but obeying the laws and the rules that was already set before us. Tonight I also want to go over a booklet entitled The Proverbs of King Peter. The Proverbs of King Peter, the universal king of the Coptic nation after the order of Melchizedek. Says these are the regulated phrases, statements, and proverbs spoken by King Peter Banks, 365 degrees, bless his name, that I have reached the degree of leader and teacher, often reflect on the words of the prophet to guide, strengthen, and encourage me through life's challenges and uncertainties. I often heard the prophet say the name of his leader because there were times he didn't know what to do. These sayings and proverbs have been a comfort to me and my temple. I pray that they're the same for you. Although the phrases are short, if you meditate on them, they may inspire you through your challenges. Know that the prophet said many and much more, and you may have your own favorites. It is my prayer that these words be a blessing and the Spirit give you guidance and revelation. Written by the royal priest Meshach, November 2017. Is Priest Meshach on the line? Okay. Let us continue on. So what I want to do is I want to go through some of these phrases that we have heard. Like one says, I don't represent faith. I am faith. Now we have heard that many times, that the prophet said this. I don't represent faith. I am faith. And so when we look at this, when we look at a representation of something and then becoming something, is two different things. Prophet Peter was showing us and demonstrating that I am, once you see me, once you see me, whatever you going through, if you could visualize my face, then that will give you enough push and pull to go forward. He said, I am faith. And so many times, even for me, when trials and tribulations come, and if you ever been in a situation where you didn't even have enough to pray, or you have prayed all night and all night long, sometimes, you know how they say a good look will do you well? Be able to see the prophet's face. Now, I believe it works for those that never met the prophet. But your pastor, your teacher, somebody you believe in, you could take that same mustard seed of faith. You could take that same example and see them, if that's somebody that you trust and believe in. It may be Queen Rebecca, it may be Queen Capanon, it may be Queen Pearl, it may be Queen Rachel, it may be Queen Victoria, it may be Queen Hosanna, whoever it is. If that's what you rooted and grounded on, and sometimes you focus on that person in your Christ mind. That's what Prophet Peter was talking about when he said, I don't just represent faith. I am faith.
Prophet Melchizedek is on the phone.
Thank you, priest. Thank you, priest. We've started. And so welcome again to the conference, Inspirational Conference Connection, priest. I've already introduced your book. I introduced your forward and you write it, and I went to the first phrase or affirmation of King Peter where it says, I don't represent faith, I am faith. The next one I want to go through, Prophet Meshach, and it says, you think, prophet said, you think you are going out the door, but maybe going out the window. And I say that a lot. Many people think they're going out the door, but really going out the window. Priest, can you elaborate what your interpretation of what that means?
Well, first, before I begin to speak on the interpretation, I want to thank you for the opportunity to invite me on to discuss something that I think is essential to the tradition, to those who had a chance to meet the prophet and those who have never met him physically, but may know the spirit. Thank God that I was inspired. Just give a little brief, why did I do it? And then I'm going to speak on what you spoke on. I was sitting down one day, and I'm often referencing the prophet. I mean, it's just what I do. I think as a young man, I was young enough to witness and hear many things, and I'm still young enough to retain it. And before memory go, and before you think you heard something and didn't hear it, I was sitting down and began to meditate as well on the prophet. And I said I was going to write down 7 of his quotes. I thought I was going to write down 7 of his quotes that I would think be, inspirational to the church and myself. And so as I started writing the 7, it was like, and I heard you when I came in talking about how faith, put your mind on those who have inspired you to activate your faith or activate your mind to do great things. And the words are coming. It wouldn't stop. I started at 7, it went to 12, it kept going. I actually went to 115, and it was much more. But it was amazing. So I published it, and the book is published, it copyrights, and I shared it with many others, and many have been inspired by it. And what I said in the introduction of the book, that these proverbs, and basically proverbs are just short, wise sayings that have a lot of meaning to it without saying a whole lot. It's not in much words, it's in the right words. So a lot of times people think they got to say a whole lot to convey wisdom, but you can say 2 words and open up a door. So probably many times the quotes that you will find in the book, it always led up to something, meaning that he was discussing something, and he was giving you an analogy of he was telling you what was going on. Then he would conclude it with what I would call a proverb or the conclusion to the matter. And And that would leave the lasting thought. Like you was talking about. He could have been talking about something about healing and how he worked people's cases, and then he would probably close and say, "I don't represent faith, I am faith."
Yes.
So those quotes oftentimes was tied to a greater statement, but the thing that remained was the profound points he would drop on you. So as I said in the book, that you can take these proverbs as you do in the scriptures and find your own internal meaning. There's no wrong or right answer as long as it inspires the greater you to see that you can also become what the prophet was inspiring for us to be. So the verse about the going out the door and going out the window. So let's just stretch it out a little bit. So I can't remember exactly what the prophet probably was talking about at that time because he used the quote quite often. So basically, he's basically talking about how people believe or think they have a certain understanding about something. Or you may think you're convinced in something, or you may think you're not wrong in the matter. And it's basically saying if you keep going down that path, you're going to end up thinking you're going the right way because the door is basically to enter and exit out. You very seldom go out the window unless you're breaking into somebody's house, or unless it's an emergency, trying to get out the window. And then depending on how the window is, you don't want to go out that window. You know what I'm saying? So when he said you think you're going out the door and you're going out the window, meaning you're going in the wrong direction. In other words, you're not going in the right path you think you're going. And that's why sometimes you can think you're right and be wrong. And I tell people oftentimes, even when you think you're right, think about when you found out you was wrong. Think how convinced you was when you was wrong. When you found out it was wrong, think how convinced you was when you was wrong. And that's how powerful we have to understand the mind is. So you got to be careful that when you think you're right, you just might be wrong. So that's pretty much what that proverb represents.
I want to
going out the door. Yeah.
I want to add
going out the window.
And I want to add to that, priest, and my, again, like you said, we all have our interpretation. It's so much harder. But let me say it this way first. It's so easy to open up a door and walk out. It takes a lot of work to go out of a window. You don't walk out of a window. You got to push, pull up, pull down. And so many times we do so much work for nothing when it's so much easier. Even in our life, so many times we make things so much harder than they are instead of looking more than one way for a way out of it. We make things so hard on ourselves when sometimes we need to look around. He said many times, I don't know if this is in the book, but it's, you got to look for a situation more than one way.
Oh, he would say, what's in the book, he said, God never make a way out of no way. He said the way was always there.
That's the part I'm talking about exactly. And he tells us it was a way already there. And so many times we make it hard. We make it hard.
Well, that could be that's an interpretation. That's why I said it's up to the reader. How they internalize it, and if it's in the case of an emergency, that the window is the best exit out. But if you can't get to the door, but as you said, the door is easier.
Yes.
The door is designed to enter and exit. The window is designed to let air in and, for whatever reason, let some light in. But you really don't try to climb out the window, especially depending on your condition. You don't really want to be trying to do it. And then, as I said, depending on how high that window is, if you're in a 20-story building, you surely don't want to go out that window. So, you can take that interpretation. That's a good one.
All right, I want to look at this one. And I think this is and I believe that the prophets and the queens were so advanced before their time. It's so much that I remember and think of them saying today that is so profound today, 30, 40, 50 years later, that makes much sense. One of the ones is there was more than 72 names of God. And I say that even looking at now all the denominations, and you look up in the last 20 years, 10, 20 years, I think we look early 2000s, how even so many people have opened up or transformed out of Baptist, Methodist, Protestant to non-denomination churches, where non-denomination churches have no set alliance to anyone or anything. And so when we talk about there are more than 72 names of God, but he continues to tell us, don't forget, I am that I am. We as even Coptics today want to look at other gods, and we know, you know, many people know, if you read Melchizedek book, it talks about Amun-Ra, which is a name. But yet, even Melchizedek gave us what? I am.
I am.
And so, no matter how many names be formed, we can, and I don't care how much it makes sense, this is still the past, in my opinion, that they gave us, I am that I am.
Well, for one, if you attend the Coptic church that was established by Prophet Cicero, and established by King Peter, Queen Capitan, Queen Priscilla, and many others, then that's the name you're supposed to know. There is no other name that can be used, that can be referenced in this order. If that name does not suit your boat at this time, then you need to go create an order and use that name and see if that name does everything that you think it can do. But as I told you the other day, we bear record, not theory, not based on the Bible. I tell people, I don't validate the Bible based on the Bible. Prophet and Queen Capitan validate the Bible to me. They prove some of the things that scripturally based that can be done. One is the healing. I don't know if Jesus in the scripture ever healed anybody, but I know Mother Rebecca healed many, and I know Prophet Peter did. So they validated the Bible. The Bible didn't validate them; they validated the Bible.
Right.
So the name that they gave us, that they did this healing in, was I am that I am God. Period. And I tell anyone, show me another name they use. My teacher would stand in class and stand people on their feet, and she would pray, and she would go into I am that I am and tell you, till when she got through with you, you was under the chairs and any other furniture that was in there. You was moved by the Spirit. So you can convince somebody else with that. But the 72 names, basically, Prophet was saying, according to the quote, because people get caught up in the name game. It's a name game. And why is it a name game? Because if you look at language, how many languages is on the planet? How many languages on the planet? My name is Meshach, according to a Hebraic term, and my other name is Mishael. But if you was to say it in Chinese, what would it sound like? If you would say it in Portuguese, what would it sound like? If you would say it in Swahili, what would it sound like? So are you going to go around and argue about the phonetic sound of a name when we all speak in English?
Right.
So at the end of the day, the I am is the highest truth, because you can't go, where can you go? I, one, am, you referencing the indwelling spirit within stuff. So I think, Prophet was just addressing that, he said there are many gods, but remember the God that brought you up and brought you out. And if I am that I am God, through the teaching of the Coptic faith, has healed you, blessed you, made you who you are, then why seek for another? I mean, you can. I mean, people are free to do what they want to do. And if it makes sense, then people, I don't want to take up most of the conversation, but people act like it's a higher truth. It's a deeper truth. I used to hear people say, oh, they didn't teach you this. They didn't teach you what? And what you done did with it that you done got it now? I mean, show me. I tell people, show me the evidence of what you got. If you got the secret name, and probably, I would say something else, but I'm going to say that for a later teacher. But if you think you got the name or the path, okay, then show me what you're working with.
Well,
show me.
That's the whole thing, is many people, they want to think they found something that nobody else knew. And so that's why they go on. But again,
it's just new to them.
Well, and the thing is, but I still think that for me and my house is to continue to call on I am that I am. That works for me. Another phrase or affirmation I want to look at is singing and praying is one thing, but living the life is another.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that would fall up under religious kind of like religious mindset, that people people are inspired by singing. Singing will inspire the spirit and will cause many to shout. People can pray. You got somebody who can pray you into, pray you about your seat. But live the life. Become that you represent. Become that you say you are. That's a whole other thing. And I think the question is, here's another thing that Coptics got to get out of. Don't worry about who's not elevated or doing whatever they supposed to. The question is, are you holding what you say you are? See, that's the maze of the tradition. And it's a beautiful thing when you really understand it. It ain't about nobody else. Everybody say, these people call themselves a queen, or she say she an empress. That ain't no, everybody can see where everybody's deficiency at, or they lack. And they may never be that. They may never be the empress that in your mind they should be. Then you become the empress that they're supposed to be. Then you become the queen that you're looking for. So singing and praying is one thing, but live the life that you talk about. I got to be the best Meshach ever. There will never be another Meshach like me. Because when I get through with the name of Meshach, you're going to have to go hard and long to bring another Meshach back. And it is one back anyway, but we got a lot of running to do. Catch up with me. But anyway, that's what it means. Live the life that you are talking about.
It's not just
instead
Sunday.
Of singing about it.
Yeah, it's not just the Sunday thing. It's not just when we put our robes on. We need to be the prince, the empress, the queens, or whatever even your name is. You need to be, as King Peter, Mother Rebecca became who they are, not just their degree. They became their names. They became who they are every day. And that's how they was known by the world. I mean, if you was to say to somebody Eddie Banks, they'd be like, who is that? He became Peter to politicians, to the world. And he became a king and a prophet, a leader to the world. And that's what he was saying, that, we have to demonstrate and be that. Another quote that I just looked at is, we don't talk Bible, we demonstrate Bible. And you kind of said this earlier, if you never, you read the Bible, you teach the Bible, I know, but you have no fact that the lame man was healed. You have no fact that the leprosy was cleansed, but you have fact. You have seen and you have testimonies of people that they had diseases, or they had skin issues, or they was paralyzed, or they just was bound in the mind, and they were raised. And so that's what the prophet was saying when he said we don't just talk Bible, we demonstrate Bible. And that's one thing that we as Coptics has to continue on, is demonstrating the works. We have to continue demonstrating and going forth and doing the works. What they gave us then, even in the day of Melchizedek, in the 70s and 80s with the prophet and the queen, and it still is evident today that this order, this faith, this work, the things that they gave us is real. It's real. And so, it's us that are, as we was talking about Tuesday, as Queen Pearl was saying it, and then Queen Pearl can comment on this because she's on the line as well. Mother Rebecca said this at your church, Brother Misak. So when I say this, I hope I don't offend anybody. And Queen Pearl kind of said it Tuesday. The issue is, many of us had got lazy. She said it. Your church. Well, I'm finna say it. I'm finna say it. I said.
Okay.
She said the queens has got lazy. And then Queen Pearl said on Tuesday, even the people are ashamed or stopped, because we were talking about it. Queen Pearl, you can comment your own self, but we were talking about Queen Pearl said she had 200 candidates come out with her. Queen Eve had 100 and something. This is the turnover that was happening in the 70s and 80s with the prophet and the queens. And now we have the churches, but still only 2 or 3 people. And because the workers have watered it down, we have watered it down, and the people are not going in the vineyard and bringing people in. Queen Pearl,
no, they're not official.
That's what I'm saying. They're not bringing people in. Queen Pearl, would you want to comment?
Yes, Prophet. You are right. A lot of our people, majority of our people, they act like they scared to talk to the people, to let the people know about their leader, about their teacher, about what's going on. You know, they're scared to mention the name of Black Jesus. You know, and that you cannot be afraid or you cannot be ashamed of this God that you serve. I was listening to Meshach, and he was saying that you got to not only just talk it, you got to live it. Mm-hmm. You got to live, be recognized of who you are. The prophet 2 John word was, let my life that I live speak for me. Mm-hmm. Those things that you are doing, those things, the way that you are helping people, you know, we can't live in this world and just think of ourselves. Because we wasn't built upon that kind of foundation. Right. King Peter's word also was, stay on the post. Other word, if he gave you a job, if he gave you a position, you stay there and do what you're supposed to do. With that. Also to me, then I'm going to have to get on, King Peter was a miracle worker. Mm-hmm. To me. Mm-hmm. He worked many miracles in my life. Mm-hmm. I remember, I'm going to tell you this, I remember when the prophet 2 John, they dropped him in the army. And he had only been in there for maybe 6 months. And I went to King Peter one Friday night, and I say, prophet, I say, do you think that you can bring my husband home? You know what he said? He said, oh my God, he just got over there, didn't he? But he said that to me. But in a couple of months, Prophet 2 John, I never forget it, it was King Peter anniversary in August. He came, they let him come home. And Queen Capernaum told him, put your garment back on. And he did. They were getting ready to send Prophet 2 John to Vietnam. And she told him to put his garment back on. And then we had to go to a meeting with the army people. And King Peter said, go ahead on, I'll be with you. And you all know, when we got in that office, King Peter worked a miracle for me. He, all of a sudden, I began to look up on the wall, and I began to tell the people, I said, do y'all see all those people hanging up on that wall? Look at them, look at them. You know what that army man said? He told the prophet 2 John, he said, no, we don't need to send you to the army, to Vietnam. He said, you need to be here with your wife. And when we came out of the office, Prophet 2 John said, baby, are you all right? I said, what do you mean? He said, you were talking about bugs and things crawling up on the wall. I said, what? I didn't even know I was doing that myself, but it was the spirit of King Peter that was working with me. Mm-hmm. And you know, he didn't go to Vietnam. They sent him to Fort Sheridan. He came home every weekend. Mm-hmm. So to me, that was a mighty, mighty, mighty man.
Yes.
That had power beyond power.
Yes.
Well, Queen, I bear witness of many testimonies and things in my own life. What people don't understand is what we are charged to do. I think a lot of times you said it was a miracle in your life, and you know, everyone has to bear record of their own miracle event. But that was the uniqueness about the prophet. You know, when people try to complex it and make it beyond comprehension, you can bear record 99% when you went to the prophet or the queen.
Right.
It was a short conversation. You conveyed what your issue was, and then he say, "All right, I'll work on it," or "I'll get back with you," or the queen said, "I'll handle it."
Right.
Now, before you, sometimes the next day or the week, whatever, or however, even something they told you how it was going to be, that was it. So can't nobody say, this is what amazed me today about people. People want to try to make the faith deeper than what it is. First of all, prophet and them were anointed by God to do what they were able to do. No one would never know what they really know. All they know, when they spoke a word, things happen. That's it.
That's it.
It wasn't the oil, wasn't the cake, wasn't the crown, wasn't the staff, wasn't their address. It was when they spoke, the universe, the creator, the God, whatever you want to say, moved in their behalf. And that's the greatest demonstration they ever demonstrated to me. While everybody running getting cakes, trying to get oils and candles and everything else in the sun, probably would stand flat-footed and work your problem out.
Yes, he would.
That's the leader I came from under. And everybody else was in the temple, that's the leader they came up under. Now, if you don't know that, God bless your soul. But that's who they were. That's who they were. It was just that simple, you know. And that's why they was Mother Rebecca used to say this often in class. And anybody here, there's a Rebecca light from the class here. Remember, she said, "I'm going to show you a mystery." She said that all the time. And you know, I'm thinking she going to say some colossal word, or she going to do something so phenomenal. And all the time, it dawned on me when she was transitioning and we was at the hospital, I realized she was the mystery.
Yeah.
Because she did things right in front of us. We weren't comprehending. I remember there was a queen came to, what's her name? I may remember her name, and somebody on the line may remember her name. Her hands used to peel. She was in our class. Her hands used to like scab up all the time. I mean, this is a condition she came to the temple with. And Mother Rebecca, you know, she would see one thing I love about Mother Rebecca, she would do a lot of work in class. She would work with people in class. She would work with a lot of people in class. And she started working with her hands and whatever. Her hands became smooth as a baby's butt.
She may be on the line. She usually on the line.
The doctors couldn't cure it.
Yeah,
you see what I'm saying?
That's Queen Hannah. She's usually on the line.
Oh, okay. So she know. I remember my sister Kim Salah went to Queen Capitan. Well, my mother went to Queen Capitan. Well, first she went to Mother Rebecca. Then Mother Rebecca took to Queen Capitan. And my sister used to get these knots they call stars on their eyes, and you know they were irritating. So my mom went to the eye doctor, and they wanted to do surgery to remove them. So when she took it to Mother Rebecca said, "No, go see for whatever reason they go see Queen Capitan." So when my mother took her to Queen Capitan looked at her. She said, "No, that's gonna mess up her spiritual eye. Don't do the surgery." She said, "Bring it to me for 7 weeks." So my little sister, now let me show how powerful this is. I want everyone to listen how powerful this is, who we are to become. Now my sister was not young enough to have faith in nothing. All those people talk about you just believe strong enough and it happened. My sister was a little girl. She was a little baby. She next thing she wanted was a piece of candy. She didn't know nothing about what was going on. My mother took her to her. Queen Capitan sat on her lap for 7 weeks, blew in her eye. That's all she did. Blew in her eye. And after that, some stars went in and they ain't never came back again. My sister way in her 40s. Now that's the mystery.
Yes.
The doctor said they had to do surgery. Queen Capitan said, "Bring it to me. That's gonna mess up her spiritual eye," and just blew in her eye. See, this is the things that people say people don't heal no more. People not doing this no more. Healing is still among us. The difference is we're not willing to prepare ourselves as they did to be used as a healer.
Right. That's what they
You got to be grounded in yourself. Mother Rebecca said, she said when she was a major, she said, I majored for Black Jesus. She said, Prophet Cicero had a teacher. She was majoring for Black Jesus. People don't know how to hold their own. You got to hold your own to be a healer. You got to. You can't be scared of sickness. You can't be scared of death. But if you are uncertain in your own, man, ain't nothing going to happen. I promise you, ain't nothing going to happen. So I just wanted to share that with you. You were talking about the miracle.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thank you.